Hi, this is Don Farber with Vineyard Soft Corporation, and I'd like to welcome you to this training session on the KnowledgeSync solution. The topic for this session will be the configuration of an event-triggered report. That is, a report that is generated and delivered, but only when its corresponding event's business conditions have been met. Now, before proceeding with the current training session, we strongly recommend that you first have viewed the initial 2 training sessions on KnowledgeSync's integration with Crystal reports. Now, for this particular session, we're going to be working with our sample application, which is a small ERP or accounting and manufacturing solution. We've got a Crystal report that reports on sales orders that have had their required date changed. We want this report to generate only when there has been a change to a sales order's required date. So we're going to scroll this list of pre-configured events down until we find the event that identifies sales orders that have had their required date changed. We're going to double-click on this particular event to begin editing it. And we'll start out on the Reports tab. The first thing that we need to do is to associate the corresponding report to this event. So we'll click on the Add Report button and choose the 3rd report shown in this list. After choosing the report, the first thing we'll probably want to do is to change the output format of that report from ASCII or plain text to something more attractive like HTML or, in our case, PDF. Now, with an event-triggered report, what happens is that the event runs, it executes its query, in this case, retrieving a list of orders that have had their required date changed, and if there are any matching orders, then we want KnowledgeSync to generate the corresponding report once for each record or sales order that meets this event's criteria. You'll notice down in the lower half of the Reports tab in the section titled Report Parameters that this report does have a single parameter asking for the ID of the sales order to report on. If we were going to run this report manually, here's where we would enter the sales order ID. However, since this report is going to get run automatically by KnowledgeSync, if this event finds that there are matching sales orders, we need KnowledgeSync to automatically pass into this Crystal report each order ID that has had its required date changed. That's where we're going to use the answer field. I'll make that field a little bit bigger to make it easier for us to read, but if you click in this field, what you're going to see is a list of database fields. These are the fields or columns that were chosen when the event's query was initially designed. So you can see such fields as the order date, the order ID, the required date, etc. For this particular event, we want this event to tell the Crystal report what are the order IDs to report on. So quite simply, we choose that order ID field. Note that when this event runs, if it finds, for example, that there are 5 orders that have had their required date changed, KnowledgeSync will, one at a time, pass those order IDs on to Crystal, and thus this event will generate 5 Crystal reports, 1 for each order. At this point, we can jump over to the Email tab to make sure that our report is going to get delivered along with the alert message. So we can see that there's already a small alert message configured for this particular event. We do want to make sure that the option to include reports as email attachments is also checked. And finally, we need to specify whom we want these reports to get sent to. So we'll go to our Subscribers tab, click on Add Subscriber, and choose perhaps our finance team and also myself as the alert or report recipients, with email chosen as the delivery method. Finally, how often do we want KnowledgeSync to check for orders that have had their required date changed? Well, perhaps every hour would be appropriate. And so, with all this information filled in, we can simply click on Save and Close to save this event now with a report associated to it. And in fact, from the Navigator module, we can go right down to our event, orders required date change, and actually, if we drill into the deliverables for this particular event, we'll see that once this event's conditions are met, this event will trigger an email alert message, but that email alert will also include the crystal report that we just associated with this event. So that wraps up this training session on how to configure a triggered report. That is a report that gets generated only when its corresponding event's business conditions are met. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and I look forward to speaking with you in a future KnowledgeSync training session.